gangsterism that really saturates everything. We've got organized crime out in the ocean. We've got criminals plundering marine life. I mean, it is everywhere. It's playing out on playgrounds as well, where even children are getting shot. And we've had cases in the past where unborn children have been affected by gang violence. Hello, my name's Caryn Dolley. I'm a journalist at Daily Maverick, and I focus mainly on organized crime. I am based in the gangsterism capital, where there seem to be overlaps between gangsterism, policing, corruption, and I focus on this noxious network and try and unravel it. What's really happening is that there has been a surge in gangsterism, especially in Cape Town, which is a key city in the Western Cape. The Western Cape is known as South Africa's gangsterism capital because of the high prevalence of related crimes. So in Cape Town, we see lots of gang violence and gang shootings in the Cape Flats, or areas known as the Cape Flats, but that does not mean those crimes are limited to specific neighborhoods or suburbs. In terms of the city center specifically, police investigators have explained that groups were vying to control establishments, or the doors of establishments, for example, or in other words, bouncers. So we had different groups trying to control bouncer operations. And what that has resulted in is violence and organized crime sort of slipping from the streets right into establishments. And the fallout from that has been horrific. We've had incidents of a bouncer, in other words, a doorman, who was murdered in 2015 outside an establishment in the city of Cape Town's famous Long Street, so Cape Town's iconic party strip. In 2017, we had another bouncer / doorman who was stabbed. He was fatally stabbed at an establishment in Greenpoint, which is just outside the city center. And then there was yet another horrific incident in 2017 involving a mother by the name of Nicole Miller. She had 2 children. She went out with friends and she was caught up in a shootout and she died. And I think that's really important for us to acknowledge that this can really happen to any of us. The violence isn't contained in a specific area. It really affects each and every one of us in various ways, and we may not even know it. Police investigators say that there were 2 main rival groups fighting over security, or nightclub security at establishments. What this means to us, we may not be involved in organized crime, we may not even read about organized crime, but if you go out to a restaurant that is being extorted and you pay for drinks, your money could possibly end up in the pocket of an extortionist. And that's why I mentioned that this really seeps into everything, and we may be inadvertently supporting organized crime. When we're going out for a fun, frivolous night out or to have a meal, we could actually be funding organized crime. This is according to police investigators. They allege that 2 rival groups have 2 main so-called kingpins. So we've got Nafiz Modak. He's a man from Cape Town on the one side, and according to police investigators, his rival is a man by the name of Mark Liffman. Both of them are from Cape Town, and both of them say they are businessmen. They've also both been accused of crimes which they've denied. I have met both of them. I met Nafiz Modak around 2017. That was prior to his major arrest that sees him in custody at the moment. He came across as someone either very bored and or very nervous. I recall when I interviewed him in that instance, he chugged on a few energy drinks, he drank a lot of coffee. He seemed tired, actually. I've also met Mark Liffman, like I mentioned, and I met him at an auction involving an associate of his who was previously assassinated. On that occasion, he came across as confident and relaxed. He did not come across as someone anxious or nervous about anything. Previously, they were both accused in relation to private security operations. And the biggest allegations, if we pare it down and strip it down, the allegations were that they were involved with mobs of mainly men who would enforce their security on establishments, which basically involved, if certain people are to be believed, these big groups sort of muscling their way in and basically laying down an ultimatum saying, if you don't use our security, you will be in trouble. So yeah, serious allegations. Neither Mark Liffman nor Nafeez Modak, when they were initially accused of these things, neither of them were found guilty at the time. They were not convicted. They're now back behind bars, or in Mark Liffman's case, he's accused of, but not in custody, of other crimes. What was happening in the city center in relation to this, if police investigators are accurate, is that there were groups who were extorting individuals, business owners, into using their services. And I actually recall at the peak of one of these alleged underworld scuffles or skirmishes, I recall being in the city center very late one night. I was tipped off individuals would be there, and I saw what appeared to be a nightclub so-called takeover. I saw a big mob of men stationed outside a venue, and what was really scary and infuriating was that aside from this group of men, some of them were armed. I could see revelers, people laughing, having fun, sort of joking as they moved into this venue, and no one seemed to notice that there was imminent danger right there. And I can almost understand why, because these individuals seemed to blend into the shadows. They were wearing black, but that just shows how close we are to what's happening in the so-called underworld. The overlaps are massive. This is just another version of extortion, a crime that is simply, I want to say thriving, but that's a positive word, but a crime that's really gripping South Africa. There are so many gangs operating not just in the Western Cape, but further afield. In terms of nightclub security or so-called bouncer operations, though, police have identified these two rival groupings as fighting each other. And the allegations go further in that investigators have pointed out that each of these groupings has had the backing of a gang or gangs. And that's what we're actually seeing playing out in court now. We're hearing play out in court now, these allegations of gangs bolstering these groups. These crimes stretch out way further than just the Western Cape into other South African provinces and across the border. So with Nafeez Modak, for example, it previously emerged in a court case that he was in contact with a state security contract agent named George Darmanovich. George Darmanovich was murdered in Serbia in 2018. And at the time, I remember there were lots of rumors and murmurs that Darmanovich may have had information about Cape Town's underworld / organized crime circles and had to be assassinated to keep him quiet. Whether that's true or not is another story. In terms of Mark Liffman, there is a man who has been linked via police officers to the court case he's now central to. That individual, Kishore Naidu, is now wanted by Interpol, which is the international police, which shows that this goes much further than just South Africa. So there are many good, decent, honest police officers who are doing their jobs, and I think we can see the sort of fruits of their work, if I may say it that way, in arrests and developing court cases. At the same time, we also know that the South African police service is fragmented. There are divisions, there is infighting. And in the Western Cape specifically, there have been constant rumors and suspicions throughout many years, if not decades, that police officers have partnered with gangsters. Under apartheid, that did happen. In October 2022, a judge in the Western Cape High Court found there was evidence in a gang-related case to suggest that the 28's gang, a very notorious, very powerful gang, especially dominant in the Western Cape, had infiltrated the province's police service, right into crime intelligence, the anti-gang unit, and the table where managers sit. That was an exceptional judgment because it really solidified decades of rumors and suspicions into a tangible document. We're not sure of what happened to the investigation from the police's side into those critical accusations. So Nafeez Modak, as I sit here and speak, is currently in custody. He faces several criminal accusations, including in connection with the September 20 assassination of a Cape Town police officer, Charles Kinnear. At the same time, Mark Liffman is currently on trial. He isn't in custody at the moment, but he is facing this court case. He faces accusations in connection with the August 2017 assassination of a man named Brian Weinstein, also known as the Steroid King. Brian Weinstein was a steroid smuggler. He operated globally online. He was previously convicted in Ireland. Aside from all that, at the same time, in both criminal cases or trials that are currently unfolding, there have been accusations of cops partnering with accused/suspects. The steroid king, aka Brian Weinstein's murder, happened in the Cape Town suburb of Constantia, which isn't a historic gang hotspot. It's not known for gang violence. But what it does show is that behind closed doors, there is underhandedness, and that is really what I would call a flashpoint of global organized crime playing right here in one of our leafiest suburbs. We do know that in the areas known as the Cape Flats, various Cape Town suburbs, there have been an increase in shootings recently. There has been a surge in shootings. It's exceptionally worrying. But like I said, these crimes really know no bounds. We see flashpoints of violence. What we're not seeing is other types of crime, for example, money laundering. And this really saturates just about everything. It saturates everything across the city and plays out from land to sea, where criminals plunder marine life. What we're seeing in neighborhoods, in different suburbs, are bullets flying. Especially on the Cape Flats, we're seeing children on playgrounds who have before been in the firing line. Some of them have been murdered. Some of them have survived. Their mental states, we cannot imagine the impact of this violence that we can't measure is really terrifying. And it's really something we have to keep in mind. It's something that we can't calculate, but it is there. And what that manifests as later is seriously worrying.